to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is trust. Trust in ourselves, trust in life, trust in life's unfolding wisdom and direction and support. So before we get started, let's take a couple minutes to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to be here with you and have you here with us this morning. And welcome to everybody else who's joining us. So today we're talking about trust. And so many of us have experienced betrayals and disappointments and woundings from others and from ourselves even, that we have lost, or perhaps have lost our trust. And how do we regain that? I remember that there were years of my life where I really lost my trust for myself. I didn't trust myself to behave well in certain situations. I was acting out in lots of different areas of my life, very unconsciously in lots of ways, feeling emotionally tortured, and that was showing up in my behavior in ways that I wasn't being conscious of or being consciously responsible around, and brought myself into situations where I ended up feeling embarrassed and ashamed and judged, and I judged myself. And I am guessing that I'm not alone in having had experiences like that. That many of us, if not all of us, have experienced situations where we lost our trust in ourselves. And shame is one thing that can really, really trigger that loss of trust. And the question is, how do we recover from that? How do we recreate or re-access, or access maybe for a first time, a trust in life or in ourselves? So I've had many, many people in the work that I do with the Core Connection work come to me saying, I have trust issues. And for the most part, I have said, and I believe that all issues of trust are issues of trust of self. Now, when I say all issues, as soon as you use the word all, you're begging for exceptions to that rule, certainly. And this is a hypothesis, not a truth with a capital T. I invite you to check it out for yourself and and see if it proves out for you. But when I don't trust others, it's typically because I don't trust myself to be discerning. So when we become willing to know what we know, we often will get a gut feeling about somebody or some situation where there's something that says, not so sure. And then our mind or our good nature or our will, whatever, will override and say, oh no, give that person a chance, give the situation a chance, or I really want it. It looks great on paper, but I still have this feeling and I'm not listening. And so one of the ways to cultivate or reinvigorate our trust is to notice that we get messages, is to have a willingness to know what we know, to have a willingness to pay attention, to have a willingness to listen, and to listen to our inner awareness, listen to the messages that we're getting. And another way that I have found that helped me to recreate my trust was to generate a larger trust. And this is an act that is deliberate, a choice that is deliberate to, for instance, trust that life is unfolding in its perfection. And it's really hard sometimes to do that, particularly when life doesn't look the way we want it to look, particularly when we're having a really difficult time in life. It's really hard to allow that this too shall pass. Life is unfolding in its perfection. And I recognize that that can be difficult. Part of why life becomes very difficult for us, with some consistency, is that we resist it. We resist it being the way it is. We want it to be different. We think it should be different. We rail against it not being different. And if we can find a way to cultivate a greater trust that or belief or operating principle that life is unfolding in its perfection, that life is happening for me and through me rather than to me, if we can cultivate that, and again, it does take ongoing cultivation, then that can bolster our trust. So Rosalind says, avoiding people who are critical. It's predictable they will say something that caused myself to second guess my beliefs. I'm able to be around it now, but I don't feel the need to expose myself in a way such that I need to overcome it. I trust my gut instinct to avoid these people. So I have to say I'm with you, Rosalind, in a lot of ways. I think I know that we can run the risk of creating an echo chamber for ourselves where we only socialize with or communicate with people that are in alignment with us. But there are people who kind of make a job of at the best playing devil's advocate, dream killer people who pretty much have a negative thing to say about most anything, or who are incredibly critical and judgmental of us, and in a way that is not forwarding our growth, that is really meant as a domination and control sort of intervention kind of thing, a way to dominate, to belittle rather than to empower. And it's good to, I think, I certainly recognize how limiting exposure to that makes a big difference for us, because we need that handicap? Do we need somebody telling us, oh, you're never going to do that, or you're perceiving things all wrong? Eventually you get strong enough in yourself to be able to discern and be more discriminating in what impacts you emotionally and deeply, like what you take on. So this is actually an interesting spin to the conversation around how we choose to navigate our lives. Certainly, surrounding yourselves with people that uplift you is going to create a better result in your being and in your expression in the world than surrounding yourself with people who are wanting to suppress you, right? But what happens in so many cases is that we become complicit in the suppression from other people. So when, Rosalind, you're saying you're able to be around it now, and you don't feel the need to expose yourself in a way that you'll need to overcome it with those people. So that's a tribute to the strength that you have developed over time and the trust in yourself. And you say something really important by saying, I trust my gut instincts. And our gut instincts can tell us whether this is a person that is resonating on a level that is in alignment or is in opposition, right? I grew up in an environment where I felt made wrong and was judged a lot. And what I noticed over the years is that I had taken on that judgment and was imposing it on myself as well. So I had a very big experience of being a loser, and that somehow was transmitted from my environment. I internalized it very deeply, and what happened is I kept getting treated that way. And I don't know that I could dissect what the transition was, although developing a greater sense of self-trust is certainly part of moving out of that separation. I think that like that self-judgment, it was an experience of separation from myself. And as I became more present to myself, I also became more trustworthy. As I became more tuned in and connected, I was able to make more decisions that were in alignment with myself. And so the trust grew, that in knowing that I could rely on me and my own intelligence, my own sense. So the thing is that it can take time to recultivate a trust that we've betrayed, even, and particularly a trust with ourselves. So it's a process where we need to provide ourselves with grace, for one, but also we get to be a bit more gentle and compassionate with ourselves and curious rather than judgmental. And this can happen as we do that. We cultivate a connection that had been perhaps violated, perhaps denied, perhaps hadn't been ever cultivated consciously. So Rosalind, for you, you say you don't feel the need to expose yourself to people's criticisms, perhaps in the way that you may have in the past. I'm wondering what shifted for you. What are you aware of that shifted for you to enable you to not be so profoundly at the effect of others' criticism or others who are critical? What is allowing you? What shifted that allowed you to get more free around that? You know, I met someone who told me that they did not trust themselves because they actually had a condition that where they were unable to distinguish between their imaginings and what actually happened. And it's interesting because this is true for all of us to varying degrees. The mind or the memory does not distinguish between, or the body, the physiological reactions of the body do not distinguish between something that happened and something that was vividly imagined. However, in this person's life, they were unable to distinguish what was real and what wasn't real. And so their imaginings were a source of fear for them because they wanted to be remaining grounded in reality. They were afraid that they would lose their grip on reality because they had seen that happen. And I had never heard of such a thing before, but I can understand how that kind of situation could cultivate a very, very deep lack of trust within oneself, for oneself, or for life's unfolding. It was a fascinating revelation to know that such a thing could happen to such a great degree for someone. For most of us, we do have our imaginings about the experience of the world. For instance, if I think I'm a loser, I'm going to project that out into the world. I'm going to act as if that's true and that's real. And maybe that's not so different from this other person that couldn't distinguish between what's real and what's not real in certain ways. So Rosalind says, I don't have Velcro anymore. It doesn't stick because I believe in myself and I don't need validation for the way I'm choosing to live. So that is so powerful to not have the Velcro. My question is, what happened that allowed you to start believing in yourself? And that's really what we're talking about here with trust. I think that believing in ourselves and trust are inextricably intertwined. That to believe in ourselves, we have to have a level of trust in ourselves. And that's cultivated, I think. Well, I know for me, it was cultivated over a long period where I felt that I couldn't trust myself. And looking back, I can see, as I look with compassion and understanding, I'm able to, it's not really forgiveness. It's not a matter of forgiving. It's a matter, because there's a place where, as we can look back with compassion and curiosity, and without judgment, we can just recognize how things were. Maybe it's an acceptance of ourselves, of our path, of our past, that can allow us to move into that deeper relationship with self, the deeper awareness of self, deeper connection. And when we have that deeper connection, what we're cultivating is a trust. And presence is so much a part of that conversation. Gia, welcome. So wonderful to have you joining us. Good morning to you, or good morning and good evening to you. It's so wonderful to have you back. We're talking about trust and how so much of trust is self-trust. Being able to trust ourselves, to know what we know, be willing to know what we know. So one of the places that I lost trust in myself was when I allowed myself to get involved in a relationship that I knew from the front end that this person was problematic. And I didn't pay attention. I didn't listen. I didn't want to listen. And I got involved, and it ended up being devastating. The relationship just was super toxic and super painful. And it took a long time after that to regain my trust of myself, because I had betrayed my own knowing and allowed myself to get involved when I actually did know better. And so many times I've spoken to clients, for example, where they have gotten into a situation and are angry and resentful for the outcome because it was hurtful and painful and all of that. And in our conversation, what comes up is they actually knew better before they got involved. And they just didn't listen. They didn't listen to their own knowing. They didn't attend to their own wisdom. And it's often, I guess it's often through hard knocks and lessons that we learn to pay attention. And as we learn to pay attention, that's being willing to know what we know, being willing to trust our knowing. And that, again, cultivates a deeper alignment with ourselves and our own wisdom. So I invite us all to cultivate our trust, cultivate that relationship with ourselves and with the universe, like to look at life as serving us, as working for us, happening for us and through us rather than to us. And that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like and follow and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And as always, it's such a tremendous pleasure and privilege to have this opportunity to share these musings on what it is to be human together. So until next time, so much love to you.